Hello, I am Mike of Eeloo Dice. This is the Kerbal Space Program. Right. Kerbal Amcot. Can I bring that up? I can. Look, Kerbin to Eeloo, 5 days. Want to do something about that? Okay. So, I've been kind of going backwards and forwards on whether or not I actually want to go to Eeloo, because it involves designing a whole new craft and But I've kind of come to the decision that yes, I'm going to. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that maybe what I can do is, because at the moment I've been making what I want to do if we're going to send a satellite to Eeloo, what I'm going to want it to do is I want to do the basic science, high above and in space high, in space low. Might be able to do all the gravimetric data things you can do, because you can do that over each biome. But I also want to do the mapping. I want to do, you know, the low-level radar, the high-level radar, and the biome scans. So it occurs to me that I noticed a while back that each of the ScanSat modules weigh the same, 0.03. So 30 kilos, 30 kilos, and 30 kilos. So I can in fact just distribute those around the satellite with no problem. Then I just need, because this great big enormous thing, but that wants to stick on the end anyway, so it's going to stick out the front. I can stick these around as long as I do them at proper 120 degree angle. The craft is in fact going to be balanced, so I don't have to worry about annoying things like you know, tipping over as it launches. Also to stick a Science Junior underneath that, for example, maybe a couple of mystery goos, because I need to put 2 mystery goos on, because they need to balance. They actually have mass and stuff like that, which means that if I don't balance them, then the craft will go off in strange directions. So then I can chuck in a whole kind of science panel. These don't, they have mass, but they add their mass to the part that they're attached to, and so they don't unbalance a craft, which is what's important for this particular application. So I can put a little science panel on there. Now this is a relatively large craft, because I mean, apart from the having chucked this this thing 200 kilograms, that's pretty much the weight. Yeah, it's out of the 730 kilos, 200 of that is Science Junior. So now it's just a case of power. Well, I need to do 2 things now. I need to give it enough delta V to wander about the Eeloo system. So this is going to be the craft that wanders about the Eeloo system. So it's going to start off fairly high out. And I'll give this slightly in an odd order, given the data I'm going to get out of it. But it's going to start out at high orbits. Do I think the resource scan, I think that wants to be quite high up, and also the altitude. So the altitude max of the high def sensor is somewhere between 800 and 750 to get the best altitude. The resource scanner should fall in that. Belt is 100, best is 150 as compared to that one, 750. Okay, so do the scan sat first, then go do the resource scanner at 150 kilometers. Where do I want that one? Well, actually, I know. Okay, so I do the multispectral at 250. Then I come in to do that at 150. Then I come further in again, and at 500. Oh, what the? Okay, this one doesn't have a best altitude. Somewhere between 5 and 500 kilometers there. So I'll then finally go into the, which is kind of amusing because it's going to be the lowest. The lowest fidelity scan, but I still want to get them all because I think this might be the one that might be the only one that gives you slope data. I'm not sure. So start off far out on a far, polar orbit, and then come in and closer in, and do each of these scans one at a time. When I'm in space high, do as many of these experiments as I can, and do one of the mystery goos. Then in space low, do them all. Given that I'm going to be doing a polar orbit and the gravity scan, you can do once per orbit, once per biome, at high and at low. So I want to do that. So I should be able to get a fair amount of science out of all this. So fine, all very fine and good. Now, before I attach a rocket to this thing, there is the question of power. I've been writing stuff down on pieces of paper. And the big energy hog is this thing, the Scan SAR altimetry sensor, which uses 1.5 electric charge per second, which is 90 per minute, which is about that's an interesting number because this thing here creates 45 a minute. So I need 2 of these to power that. And once I've got those 2, that should power pretty much everything on the craft. Nothing else costs that much. I mean, the multispectral scan, which is that one, that's only that's only 1 charge per second, which is 60 a minute. The M700, which is that one, that is 0.5 per second, so that's 30 a minute. And that's 0.1, so that's 6 a minute. So that's all fine. The only issue is if I only put 2 of them on. Now, the reason I'm using the RTGs and not anything else is that we're going to be so far out. Eeloo is such a far away thing that solar panels are basically going to be useless. So if I put those 2 RTGs on, that will power the craft sufficiently. What are you? You're a thermal. What are you doing down there? Somehow you got left off. There you go. Okay. So that's the power sorted. Now it does mean that I'll probably need to turn off SAS, which is fine. I'm going to have to make a point of turning off the SAS. In fact, turning off the guidance unit entirely, because that's 3 per minute, plus 1.8 per minute if the reaction wheels are going, which is, I suspect, if I've got the SAS running, it's going to be 1.8 a minute. Which is not very much, but it'll obviously be just enough to be a net drain if this is running. And I might need to have that scan running for quite some time as it goes around the planet. Well, sorry, when this one's running. So I might need quite a lot. This in fact will take a while because that's the narrow band ones. Only got a field of view, what, 2 degrees? as opposed to the 5 degrees. So it's going to be, you know, it scans a narrower band, so it's got to go around more. So so long as I remember to turn off the SAS, we'll be fine. So let's whack on some battery. I think the logical one is to just give it a Z1K and leave it at that, because Z4K is going to be like that. Right, so we're getting close to a ton here. Now here's a question: these seem to? I'd rather like to mount them a bit more radially. Because I don't want them sticking out. Because if they stick out like that, then I've got to do a much larger fairing to get around them, and that's a pain in the buttocks. So. Oh, let's not do it that way. There you go. Now I don't need to put a huge amount of engine on this, because, right, let's change our body to Eeloo, and it's not atmospheric. So I don't need to put a huge engine on this. Definitely don't want to put a nuke on, because the nuke weighs more than this whole thing. So that's stupid, don't want to do that. What would happen if I put on an ant? Ooh, it's quite a lot. Very small. Oh, what's thruster weight's not too bad though. I was about to say, yeah, it's an ant. It's going to be tiny. The advantage of using an ant is that because it is so tiny in terms of mass, that I'm not adding that much to it. Therefore, it's okay to kind of put it on. And I was going to assume that it was going to have a very low thrust to weight ratio, but according to this, around Eeloo, my thrust to weight ratio is going to be fantastic. So we might just stick with that. So that is going to be... Right, I'm just going to do a thing actually. Let's go structural. I'm just going to very quickly make sure that my... that these are the scan sats are in fact properly aligned. So I'm just going to see that's not. So what I can do is I can just grab this and then make sure it lines up with. So these are just here to be demonstrating the correct angle. Whoa, no! Put that back on. There we go. Right, so that should be, well, it would be helpful to put the, that seems to be correct. What I would love to do is have a bit of a, well, that's actually not too bad. Right, get rid of those, don't need those no more. Anyway, I would love to have like, not just a center of mass, but an axis of mass. Where I want to know, because like the center of thrust here, is, you can see that it's pointing, got a nice big arrow pointing downwards. I would love to have one that kind of points right the way through the rocket. And so you can compare that rather more directly to the center of thrust. That would be, I think that would be quite a convenient thing to have. Because then you can see if you adjust things if they're in the right state. So I am going to save that. Typing save is pointless. Eeloo. How do you spell Eeloo? Is it Eeloo? It is E-E-L-O-O. I've got to happen to have a thing. I've got to change it. That's right. Eeloo probe. Save that. So in theory, from here on in, because that's going to be loads. If I've got a transfer stage that gets me to Eeloo, which admittedly is 2070 meters per second from Kerbin Earth orbits, but if I make a stage that gives us that, then the rest is relatively simple rocketry. It's just make a rocket big enough to launch that. Then make something big enough to launch that into low Kerbin orbit of about 100 clicks, and then it's just a case of getting it in the right position and sending it off, and waiting years and years and years and years, no doubt. But that should work as a reasonably good science gathering probe. If I wanted to cut down the weight, I could get rid of the Science Junior, which is 200 kilos. Yeah, most of the weight is now the fuel, which is kind of what you expect. So that's a nice, neat little thing. There you go. I'm just going to have to build a bit more rocket to go with it. Right, this is what I came up with. Big rocket. It should have enough delta V. It should have enough thrust to weight ratio. Should have enough control. I guess we're going to find out. I suddenly realised I haven't put a lander together. That was one of the possibilities, to put together a lander of some description. But that would have been too much like hard work. Maybe another time, eh? So, as I prepare to launch, I'm coming up to pretty much the end of an episode, so I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to say thanks so much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos. Find me at enoughdice@enoughdice.com. And until next time, reach for the stars.